You've heard of Aragorn. You've heard of Gandalf. Maybe even Tom Bombadil. But what if I told you one of the most underrated, unspoken giga-chads in Middle-earth is a hobbit farmer? Yes, we're talking about Farmer Maggot, the mushroom-growing, dog-wrangling, Nazgûl-defying absolute unit who lives on the outskirts of the Shire. You probably remember him as a minor character in the Fellowship of the Ring. Maybe just a quick pit stop before Frodo and the gang reach Bree. But if that's all you know, you're seriously sleeping on one of the most unequivocally base characters in the Tolkien legendarium. This video is a deep dive into why Farmer Maggot was actually a boss, and not just by Hobbit standards. We're covering everything: his history, his legendary dogs, his confrontation with the Ringwraiths, and what Tolkien's lore tells us about this seemingly simple yet surprisingly complex hobbit. Part 1. Who is Farmer Maggot? Farmer Maggot, first name unknown, was a hobbit of the Marish, a fertile farming region in the East Farthing of the Shire. He lived on a farm called Bamfalong, near the village of Stock. The Marish is distinct from much of the Shire, low-lying, misty and boggy, with hobbits there living in houses instead of the usual hobbit holes. This alone makes Maggot a bit of an outlier. Hobbits of the Marish are said to be hardier and more independent. They're more rural, more hands-on, and probably closer in temperament to the Stors, one of the 3 original breeds of hobbit. Stors were known for being broader, heavier, and more rugged. Some even had facial hair. While Tolkien doesn't explicitly state that Maggot is a Stor, the clues are all there. The Marish, the demeanor, the physicality, even his boldness in facing evil. All of it paints a picture of a hobbit who's built differently. Part 2. Keep your sticky fingers to yourself. Farmer Maggot first appears in the Fellowship of the Ring, when Frodo, Sam and Pippin cut across the Marish while trying to avoid detection. Frodo is visibly nervous. Why? Because as a kid, he used to sneak into Maggot's fields and steal mushrooms. Let's be honest, this is Frodo's most relatable moment. Who among us wouldn't risk it all for some Shire-grown mushrooms? But here's where things get interesting. Farmer Maggot wasn't just annoyed by Frodo. He terrified young Frodo. As Frodo tells it, Maggot once caught him, beat him, and unleashed his massive dogs on him. One even bit him. Now, in true Tolkien fashion, this memory is probably exaggerated. Maggot doesn't seem like a cruel man, just someone with strong boundaries and no patience for nonsense. Even as an adult, Frodo is still kind of scared of him. But when the hobbits finally meet Maggot again, he's surprisingly kind. He feeds them, shelters them, gives them intel, and even offers to drive them to Bucklebury Ferry in his own wagon. Total opposite from what Frodo expected. Part 3. The Dogs of Bamfalong. Let's talk about those dogs. Farmer Maggot has 3 enormous dogs: Grip, Fang, and Wolf. Yeah, Wolf. If your dog is literally named Wolf, you're clearly not playing games. These aren't cute little Shire pets. They're guard dogs, and they're trained to defend the farm from trespassers, and potentially worse. Frodo's encounter with them as a child left a mark, and it's no wonder. These dogs are described as huge, snarling, and capable of real violence. In a world filled with wolves, wargs, orcs, and even ringwraiths, these dogs are the first line of defense at Bamfalong, and Maggot commands them with absolute authority. When a literal Black Rider shows up at his farm sniffing around for Baggins, what does Maggot do? He sicks the dogs on him. Part 4. Maggot bears the Nazgûl. This is the moment that cements Maggot's legendary status. If you've only seen the movies, you've probably only seen the scene where Maggot tells what way Hobbiton is, when the Nazgûl turn up while he's chopping wood. That is far from Tolkien's version of our base farmer. Here's a more accurate description of the situation. A Ringwraith, the undead servant of Sauron, mounted on a black horse, cloaked in shadow and pure dread, shows up at his farm. For context, these things paralyze people with fear. They are the elite enforcers of evil, wielders of ancient corrupted rings of power, and they ride in with shrieking terror. But what does Maggot do? I told him what I thought of him and his sort, and I told him if he didn't get out of it quick, there'd be trouble. I wouldn't be spoken to in that way, so I sent him off with a flea in his ear. This man confronted a Nazgûl, told him to shove off, and chased him off with dogs. Let that sink in. No elven blade, no magic ring, no ancient bloodline. Just one tough hobbit, 3 big dogs, and a whole lot of nerve. That's some base behavior. Part 5, Maggot's role in the lore. So why does Tolkien include this guy at all? He could have easily been just another quirky side character. But Farmer Maggot serves a deeper narrative and thematic purpose. He expands our view of hobbits. Maggot isn't like Bilbo or Frodo. He's earthy, grounded, and confident. He represents a different kind of hobbit strength, one rooted in land, family, and tradition. He gives us a moment of contrast. At a time when Frodo is being hunted by unspeakable evil, it's powerful to see that simple, everyday goodness still stands strong. He models courage without heroics. He's not on an epic quest. He doesn't fight in any grand battles. But when evil comes knocking, he does what needs to be done. And there's something very Tolkienian about that. Not all courage has to look like riding into battle. Sometimes it's standing your ground, protecting your land, and helping your neighbors, even when it's dangerous. Part 6, Maggot and Frodo. Redemption and hospitality. One of the most heartwarming aspects of Farmer Maggot's story is his interaction with Frodo. Despite their rocky past, Maggot shows genuine care for Frodo. He welcomes him, feeds him, and helps him evade the Nazgûl. He even offers him a basket of mushrooms for the road, a beautiful full-circle moment from Frodo's childhood thievery. This is classic Tolkien. The healing of old wounds, the importance of hospitality, and the quiet power of kindness. Part 7, Hidden Depths. What Tolkien might be saying. Let's zoom out for a second. Farmer Maggot is a microcosm of Tolkien's larger message. He's proof that strength isn't just found in kings, wizards, or warriors. It lives in ordinary people who choose to do good, even when they don't have to. There's no prophecy about Maggot, no chosen one moment, but he acts with honor, courage, and wisdom anyway. And that's what makes him great. It's easy to overlook someone like Maggot. He's not flashy. He's not even in the movies, aside from a passing name drop. But maybe that's the point. Tolkien's world is filled with small heroes, and Farmer Maggot is one of the best. Recap why Farmer Maggot was actually based beyond belief. Lives in a tough part of the Shire, the Marish. Owns huge guard dogs named Grip, Fang, and Wolf. Protected Frodo from a literal ringwraith. Showed hospitality and kindness despite a rocky past. Embodies grounded, everyday courage. Stood his ground when evil came knocking. Farmer Maggot isn't just a side character. He's a quiet legend, a hobbit built different, and the kind of unsung hero that makes Tolkien's world feel so real. So next time you think of power in Middle-earth, don't just think about swords, rings, or elven bloodlines. Think about a muddy farm in the Marish. Think about 3 big dogs. Think about based Maggot. And that's the legend of Farmer Maggot, Mushroom King, Dog Commander, and Nazgûl smacking Hobbit of the Year. A based Hobbit who got too little recognition in the movies, but who Tolkien obviously held in the highest regard. He might not have wielded a sword or carried a magic ring, but when it came to protecting his home, Maggot didn't miss. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of Middle-earth's most underrated characters, hit that like button, subscribe for more lore-packed content, and drop a comment with your favorite base moment from the Shire. Until next time, stay sharp, watch out for Ringwraiths, and never underestimate a Hobbit with a basket of mushrooms. See you in the next one.